Hello everyone, this video is about aquatic insects, factors influencing the aquatic life, food capture of aquatic insects and some modifications which helps these aquatic insects to capture food easily. So we will be learning all these topics one by one. First, let's have a quick introduction about aquatic insects. What are they? What is their importance? Some common examples, etc. So, aquatic insects are a diverse group adapted to life in water. Examples include dragonfly nymphs, water beetles, and mayfly larvae. They play crucial roles in freshwater ecosystems and are indicators of water quality. These insects actually um, spend a significant part of their life cycle in aquatic environments. That's why they are called like that aquatic insects. That's why they are called aquatic insects. So here we could see pictures of some common aquatic insects like dragonfly nymph, water boatman, back swimmer, pond skater, etc. And you could see a giant water bug, which is an aquatic insect, then great silver water beetles. Along with that, predaceous diving beetles are there, along with micro caddisflies. These are some common aquatic insects. So, aquatic insects are called so because they spend a significant part of their life cycle in aquatic environments we mentioned earlier, such as ponds, streams, rivers, and lakes. That's why they are called aquatic insects, and they can be referred to as indicators of water quality. Unlike terrestrial insects that primarily live on land, aquatic insects have adapted to life in water during their larval or nymphal stages. So, that is a very important adaptation they have. So, this adaptation allows them to exploit resources in aquatic ecosystems and fulfill their life cycle requirements. Now, let's learn some common examples. We just saw their picture. So, once again, mayfly nymphs are there. These insects are an important part of freshwater ecosystems, especially in rivers and streams. And dragonfly and damselfly nymphs, the aquatic stages of these insects are known for their predatory behavior in ponds and other water bodies. And the caddisfly larvae is there. They construct protective cases using silk and materials from their surroundings while diving in freshwater. Caddisfly larvae. Then mosquito larvae, which can also be stated as an aquatic insect because its larval stage is aquatic. So, mosquitoes lay their eggs in water and the larvae develop in aquatic environments before becoming flying adults. And water striders, these insects have adapted to life on the water surface using the surface tension to move around. Then water beetles, various species of water beetles such as diving beetles spend a significant part of their life cycle in water. So some of these insects which I just mentioned are permanently aquatic insects. They live inside water throughout their life cycle. But some live inside water only during their nymphal stage or some larval stages, etc. After that, they emerge out of water. Next topic. So we just had a quick introduction about what is an aquatic insects, some common examples, what is their importance. Importance in the sense they can be, stated as insects which help us to know if the water is polluted or not. Environmental indicators, pollution indicators. Next topic is factors influencing the aquatic life. So water quality is a very important factor which influence their aquatic life. We know these are aquatic insects. So primarily the water quality is definitely going to influence their aquatic life. So water quality, the chemical composition and cleanness of water directly impact aquatic insects. Pollution, temperature changes and contaminants can affect their survival. Next influencing factor is temperature. Temperature in the sense water temperature. Aquatic insects are ectothermic, meaning their body temperature is influenced by the surrounding environment. Temperature affects their development, metabolism and overall life cycle. Water temperature along with water quality. Then oxygen levels. Aquatic insects require dissolved oxygen in water for respiration. Low oxygen levels, often associated with pollution or stagnant water, can be detrimental to their survival. So that can be a factor which can influence aquatic life of these aquatic insects. Like oxygen level, they require oxygen which is dissolved in the water for respiration. So low oxygen levels, often associated with pollution or stagnant water, can be detrimental to their survival. That can influence them negatively or positively. Then flow velocity. Flow velocity in the sense speed of water flow in rivers and streams. That can impact the distribution and behavior of aquatic insects. Some species prefer fast flowing water while others thrive in slower currents. The next factor is substrate type. Substrate type in the sense the type of substrate like rocks, sand or mud in aquatic environments affects where insects can lay eggs and find food. Substrate in the sense they are aquatic insects, so rocks, sand or mud, whatever the substrate is, that is definitely going to influence their aquatic environment, which will create some difficulty or which will sometimes facilitate the capture of food or their egg laying, whatever it may be. It also influences their ability to navigate and hide from predators. And some substrates provide them camouflage. Then food availability. Next factor, food availability. The availability of algae, detritus and other food sources in water is crucial for the growth and development of aquatic insects. Changes in food availability can impact their populations. Food availability is another influencing factor which influences the aquatic life of these aquatic insects. Then predation. Predation in the sense aquatic insects are part of complex food webs. That is also a very important point. The presence of predators such as fish or other aquatic insects can significantly influence their abundance and behavior. The presence of predators is also a factor which influences their life. Predators in the sense some fish or other aquatic insects which feeds on these aquatic insects, which can act as their predator. Then light. Light levels both above and below the water surface can influence the activity patterns of aquatic insects. Some species are more active during specific times of the day or night. Light can influence the activity of these aquatic insects. Then water depth. The depth of water bodies can affect the distribution of aquatic insects. Different species may be adapted to specific depth ranges within a given habitat. So water depth is also a factor which influences their life. Different species may be adapted to specific depth ranges. So imagine one aquatic insect which can only live in certain, portion of a water body. Below that couldn't survive. Then that area, the below area will be occupied by some other species of this aquatic insect. So that kind of distribution can be possible, which is primarily based on the water depth. Then pH levels. The acidity or alkalinity of water, pH in short, can impact the physiology of aquatic insects. Extreme pH levels can be harmful and influence their ability to molt, reproduce, or survive. It's an obvious thing. They are aquatic insects, so water pH is definitely going to influence their life. Then nutrient levels. The availability of nutrients such as nitrogen and phosphorus in water affects the growth of algae and other primary producers, which in turn influences the food sources for aquatic insects. Nutrient level of water, like nitrogen content or phosphorus content, which will, you know, influence the growth of algae and other primary producers, which in turn influence the food sources for aquatic insects. That is how they are connected with each other. Nutrient levels, higher neutral higher nutrient content will create an increase in the growth of algae, which is, or increase in the content of primary producers are higher due to the higher nutrient level. So these can create a greater amount of food for this aquatic insects. Then water turbidity. Turbid water characterized by suspended particles can affect the visibility and foraging efficiency of aquatic insects. It may also impact their ability to detect predators or find mates. Water turbidity. Turbidity in the sense suspended particles which influence the water clarity, and this water turbidity is actually influencing the light penetration also. So some other connections are also there. Then habitat structure. The physical structure of aquatic habitats, including the presence of vegetation, rocks, and other substrates, provides shelter and breeding sites for aquatic insects. Habitat structure is another important factor which influences their aquatic life. Then seasonal changes. Aquatic insects often experience seasonal fluctuations in environmental conditions. Changes in temperature, water levels, and resource availability can influence their life cycle and behavior. Seasonal changes are also important factor which influence their life. Then diseases and parasites. Like other organisms, aquatic insects can be affected by diseases and parasites which can impact their population dynamics and overall health. Then human activities. Anthropogenic factors such as urbanization, agriculture, and water extraction can alter natural habitats and introduce pollutants impacting the viability of aquatic insect populations. Anthropogenic factors are also there which influence the aquatic life of these aquatic insects. Then climate change. Climate change in the sense shifts in climate patterns can influence temperature, precipitation, and overall hydrological cycles affecting the distribution of aquatic insects and also their behavior. Then competition will be there. Intra-specific and inter-specific competition for resources such as food and breeding sites can influence the abundance and distribution of aquatic insect species within a habitat. Competition is also another important factor. Then water salinity, we mentioned earlier, the pH change. pH change is one factor. Another factor is water salinity. In aquatic ecosystems where salinity varies, such as estuaries or coastal areas, the salt concentration in water can impact the types of aquatic insects that can thrive in those environments. The saline content or salt content in the water. Then hydrological connectivity. Hydrological connectivity in the sense the connectivity between different water bodies like rivers and wetlands can influence the movement and dispersal of aquatic insects, affecting their genetic diversity and population dynamics. Hydrological connectivity means connection between different water bodies, like rivers and wetlands are connected. One river is connected with another river. Rivers are connected with the ocean. So some connections are there, hydrological connections, which can influence the aquatic insects life cycle or life environment or its living conditions. Then biological interactions. Interactions with other organisms such as mutualistic relationships with microorganisms or symbiotic associations can influence the fitness and survival of aquatic insects. And water availability and drought. Changes in water availability, including drought conditions, can impact the persistence of aquatic habitats and influence the abundance of aquatic insects. That's a very important point. Like aquatic insects are primarily living inside water. So, if some sort of drought or something influences the water availability, that is going to create problems for them. Then mating behavior and reproductive strategies. The reproductive strategies of aquatic insects, including mating behaviors and egg laying practices, can be influenced by environmental factors and impact their population dynamics. Mating behavior and reproductive strategies. And life cycle adaptations are also there. Aquatic insects often have complex life cycles involving stages such as eggs, larvae, pupae, and adults. So, environmental conditions can affect the duration and success of each life stage. So, we mentioned some important factors which influence the aquatic life of these aquatic insects. Many points were related to the water medium, some points are related to their life cycle, and some broad concepts like environmental pollution and anthropogenic actions along with climate change are also mentioned. Some factors include water quality, temperature, oxygen levels, flow velocity, along with substrate type. What type of substrate is that, like rock, sand, or mud? And food availability of algae, detritus, and other food sources. Then predation, light level, water depth, then pH levels, so acidity or alkalinity of water, and nutrient levels, nitrogen or phosphorus availability, then water turbidity, then habitat structure, the overall habitat structure of these aquatic insects, then seasonal changes, diseases and parasites, human activities like anthropogenic factors, urbanization, agriculture, like that, along with water extraction related influences. Then climate change we mentioned, then competition, then competition for both intraspecific and interspecific competition for resources, and water salinity, salt content, then hydrological connectivity, the connectivity between different water bodies, biological interactions or interactions with other organisms such as mutualistic relationships with microorganisms or symbiotic associations, then water availability and drought, mating behavior and reproductive strategies, and life cycle adaptations. All these factors are going to influence life of an aquatic insect. The next is about food capture methods. We know aquatic insects will definitely undergo predation. Predatory behaviors will be there, filter feeding will be there, grazing will be there. So we are going to learn about all these methods for capturing food. Filter feeding. Some insects, like certain caddisfly larvae, filter small particles and organic matter from the water using specialized structures or silk nets. That's one mechanism, filter feeding. Then grazing. Certain insects such as mayfly nymphs and some stonefly larvae graze on algae and other attached vegetation in their environment. That is another mechanism. Then predatory behavior, I must have. Many aquatic insects are predators actively hunting and capturing prey. Examples include dragonfly nymphs, which use their specialized jaws to grasp and consume smaller aquatic organisms. That is another mechanism. All these are food capturing methods for capturing food. Later, we'll be learning some adaptations of these aquatic insects for capturing food. So, this is about methods, different strategies they use for capturing food. Filter feeding is one mechanism, grazing is one mechanism, predatory behavior is another one. Then suction feeding in the sense some insects like damselfly nymphs use a rapid suction motion to capture prey. They have hinged mouthparts that can extend quickly to engulf their target. Suction, with the help of suction, they capture other organisms. Scraping. Stonefly nymphs and some caddisfly larvae use specialized mouthparts to scrape algae and microorganisms from rocks and other surfaces. And ambush predation. Certain aquatic insects like water bugs lie in wait for prey to come close before capturing them with swift strikes. Like they jump into the prey and capture that prey. And then burrow and wait strategy. Some insect larvae, such as burrowing mayfly nymphs, construct burrows and wait for passing food particles, actively collecting them. And piercing and sucking. True bugs like water boatmen may use piercing mouthparts to puncture and suck fluids from their prey, including other aquatic insects or invertebrates. This is one mechanism. Piercing and sucking. Extracting the body fluid of some other organisms. The net spinning is another important strategy. Caddisfly larvae construct silk nets to capture small particles and prey drifting in the water. They may also use the silk to build protective cases. And camouflage and ambush. Some aquatic insects like certain larvae and nymphs use camouflage to blend with their surroundings, making them less visible to prey. Then they ambush passing organisms. Then mucus traps. Some caddisfly larvae secrete mucus to create sticky traps, capturing small particles and organisms as they flow through the water. Mucus traps are also created by these aquatic insects to capture food. And active hunting in the sense predation. So predatory diving beetles actively swim and hunt for prey in the water, using their powerful legs to pursue and capture smaller organisms. Then ciliary feeding. Certain aquatic insect larvae have specialized structures with cilia that create water currents, helping them capture suspended particles and direct them towards their mouthparts. Ciliary feeding is another mechanism. They just use that specialized structure called cilia, which can create water currents. So that water current will help them capture suspended particles and direct them towards their mouthparts. Then detritivori. Some insects feed on decaying organic matter. We know detritivores. So some sort of similar mechanism. Some insects feed on decaying organic matter, contributing to the breakdown of detritus in aquatic ecosystems. This is common in certain beetle larvae. Then surface skimming. Water striders and other insects with hydrophobic legs use the water surface tension to skate across it, capturing prey that falls onto the surface. So water skaters are there. With the help of their legs, which are actually hydrophobic, these insects can skate across water by capturing prey that falls onto the surface. And raptorial grasping. Damselfly and dragonfly nymphs have specialized hinged labium, lower jaws, that can rapidly extend to grasp and capture prey with a quick motion. Some sort of predatory mechanism. Then micropredation. Microscopic aquatic insects such as some larvae and nymphs feed on bacteria, protozoa and other microscopic organisms present in the water. So until now we mentioned some important methods for capturing food. So let's have a quick recap. Filter feeding was a primary mechanism, then grazing, predatory behavior, suction feeding, scrapping, ambush predation. Ambush predation in the sense wait for prey to come close, then capture that with swift strikes. Then burrow and wait strategy, piercing and sucking, net spinning, camouflage and ambush, mucus traps are also created. Then active hunting, ciliary feeding, detritivore, surface skimming, then raptorial grasping, micropredation. So these are some methods for food capture. The next topic is food capture modifications. In the sense, morphological adaptations, we will be learning later some general important adaptations. So let's start. Mouth parts. Some morphological adaptations related to mouth parts which help in the food capture. Modified jaws or mandibles. Predatory aquatic insects like dragonfly nymphs possess powerful specialized jaws for grasping and crushing prey. That is an adaptation. That is a morphological adaptation for food capture. Mouth part modification, like modified jaws, in the sense mandibles are there. In case of dragonfly nymphs, they possess powerful specialized jaws for grasping and crushing prey. And piercing mouthparts. Some insects, such as water boatmen, have elongated, piercing mouthparts for puncturing and sucking fluids from their prey. And some modifications related to legs. So, catching legs. Certain insects, like water striders, have long hydrophobic legs. Hydrophobic, very important term, hydrophobic legs that enable them to skate on the water surface, facilitating the capture of prey that falls onto the surface. Then antennae, sensory antennae. Aquatic insects often have antennae with specialized sensory structures to detect changes in the water, locate prey, and navigate their environment. That is another important adaptation, sensory antennae adaptation. And cilia and filtering structures, ciliary structure. Some aquatic insects, especially filter feeders like certain caddisfly larvae, possess ciliary structures that create water currents, we mentioned earlier, aiding in capturing suspended particles. That is another important modification for food capture. And filtering appendages. Mayfly and stonefly nymphs often have specialized structures for filtering particles from the water. Then camouflage, they show camouflage, which can be beneficial for them. Camouflage body. Larvae of some aquatic insects have body shapes and coloration that help them blend into their surroundings, allowing for effective ambush predation. Then silk production. Silk glands are there. Caddisfly larvae produce silk, which they use to construct nests, cases, or traps for capturing food particles and protecting themselves. Silk glands are there, which produce silk, which can be used for the construction of nets, cases, or traps, whatever it may be, which will definitely going to help them capture food. Then swimming adaptations, modified swimming appendages. Insects adapted for active hunting, like diving beetles, have modified skimming legs for rapid and efficient movement to capture prey. Then, gill adaptations. Aquatic insect larvae often have specialized gill structures for extracting dissolved oxygen from the water, allowing them to thrive in their submerged environments. Gill adaptations. And next, specialized appendages are there, like laptorial appendages. Damselfly and dragonfly nymphs have specialized hinged labium in the sense lower jaws, that can rapidly extend to capture prey with precision. This is also another modification of this appendage, raptorial appendages. And suction mechanisms, like suction cups. Certain insects like damselfly nymphs have specialized structures that create suction for capturing prey rapidly. Then gripping structures, gripping claws are there. Certain insect larvae like stonefly nymphs have strong gripping claws on their legs, aiding in holding onto substrates and capturing prey. And labial palps. Aquatic insects, particularly larvae, often have labial palps near their mouthparts, assisting in manipulating and directing captured food. Labial palps, some associated organs related to mouthparts. Then specialized suckers, suctorial discs. Some insects like black fly larvae possess suctorial discs or cups that create a vacuum, allowing them to adhere to surfaces and capture food particles. Then hinged appendages. Hinged appendages. Damselfly and dragonfly nymphs have hinged appendages, providing flexibility and precision in capturing prey. Then sensory pores. Sensory pores. Aquatic insects may have sensory pores on their bodies that detect chemical signals in the water, aiding in locating potential food sources. And modifying antennae. Adapted antennae with specialized sensors help insects detect movements and locate prey in their aquatic environment. Sensory antennae. Enlarged eyes are there, which can also act as a modification for food capture. Some aquatic insects like dragonfly nymphs, modification in the sense this all these factors help this aquatic insect to capture food. So some aquatic insects like dragonfly nymphs have large compound eyes that enhance their visual ability in locating and perceiving prey. Then rotatable heads. Certain larvae, such as mosquito larvae, have heads that can rotate, allowing them to scan their surroundings for prey. Then paddle-like appendages. Paddle-like appendages. Water beetle larvae may have flattened and paddle-like hind legs, aiding in swimming and capturing prey. Paddle-like appendages. So, with the help of this, we learned some important aspects related to the food capture modifications of aquatic insects. Some important morphological adaptations like mouthpart modification, modified jaws or mandibles, piercing mouthparts are there, legs, catching legs, antennae, sensory antennae, then cilia and filtering structures like ciliary structure, filtering appendages, camouflage. This is not morphological, but sometimes morphological in the sense their morphological peculiarities help them in the process of camouflage, which helps them to capture food more effectively. Then silk production, silk glands, swimming appendages, modified swimming appendages, then gill adaptations, then specialized appendages like raptorial appendages, suction mechanisms in the sense suction cups are there, then gripping structures, gripping claws, labial palps, which can also be stated as a morphological adaptation. Then specialized suckers, suctorial discs we mentioned earlier. Then hinged appendages, sensory pose, modified antennae, sensory antennae, then enlarged eyes, then rotating heads, rotatable heads, and paddle-like appendages, paddle-like appendages. So that's all about my topic, and I would like to mention some important ecological aspects of these aquatic insects. We often contaminate water bodies with various mechanisms like we pollute water bodies. We sometimes, manipulate the water body with adding chemicals, or sometimes we dump some very bad chemicals or something like that. Sometimes these chemicals can influence their life and we are manipulating their micro habitat, and that is something which we should stop because we are influencing their life in a bad way sometimes by polluting the water bodies. Along with that, I would like to mention something like when we dump or when we pollute the water by adding soap or detergents into the water, which may sometimes lead to eutrophication. That is something, one thing. Along with that, we contaminate the water bodies by adding detergents into the water bodies, which will influence these aquatic insects by influencing their ability to walk over the water, because these detergents sometimes lower the surface tension. So that will definitely influence the life of this aquatic insect, and pollution along with anthropogenic action in a negative way, which is influencing the life cycle of these organisms, is something which we need to stop. So always try to protect our natural environment, try to lower the impact, bad kind of impact which we influence on this small creatures. We need to respect our environment. We must not pollute water bodies.